Kieran. I'm part of Overtime. I'm also a Gemini and a huge friend of Dorothy. Just so you know, boys. Well, before I came to Aardvark, I had this fairly comfortable middle-class life. The second youngest in a very large but very well-educated Irish Catholic family. And it all started falling away, everything started breaking. I was fighting over wills, over what was going to happen when my parents went over to the old country again, and what was going to happen when Grandma died, and it got so much more stressful, and then eventually it turned violent and I had to leave. And I never thought in my life that I would end up homeless. And being already a music student, busker, and getting regular gigs in my little hometown, it all fell away. All the musical instruments in our shed, it was all gone. That music that was my life, my whole life, since before I could talk, it all broke down with it. And I left with nothing but my medication and the clothes on my back, palmed off between different family members, struggling with uni, and eventually I ended up signing my first lease in a town far, 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 far away from where I grew up. And that was about the same time that I made connections with Aardvark. Some of the greatest friends I've ever made in my life, the mentors, some of the greatest people I've ever seen in my life. Ellie and Tristan, I hope you consider me a friend rather than just like a young person, because I love that too. And all these varied people, we got together in a way I couldn't imagine. Hip hop lovers and pop queens and pop punk fiends, and me, who, just as a bit of an anecdote, I went and signed into my JB Hi-Fi account the other day, and the first recommendation that came up was classic dad anthems. So I think that tells you all you need to know about my sort of music taste. But being homeless for so long, Aardvark felt like home. That Monday, coming in after, my days of uni and housemates I didn't know in a place I didn't know. The people that I'd met on the first week, I seemed to know so much better. And as someone who was already writing songs on my own, but once a year maybe, because I didn't really like them, I became more free and more collaborative, and I think I'm a different person at the end than I was at the start. But let's go back to the start for a second. I said I left with the clothes on my back, and it's not quite true. I left with the clothes on my back, and I scooped up off the floor my favorite shirt, which is this one. It has a guy vomiting on it. But it's my Pogues shirt, and obviously mentioned before, my favorite band is the Pogues, and I knew that I had a long road ahead of me when that night I left. When that night it became too violent for me to stay, I knew that, I needed the Pogues then, and, Aardvark are the Pogues to me now. They became my anchor, they became my comfort. These songs, it's just like singing songs from home. That's a lyric in one of the songs, you'll see. And it's like this shirt. Anyway, before we get this band back on the stage, I would like to mention the Pogues one last time. My favourite member is not Shane McGowan and his 5 awful teeth. It's actually the late Phil Chevron who wrote my favourite song, Thousands of Sailing, which, go home and listen to it, okay? And he said this one quote, it's not possible to write songs from a place of torment, even if they are about that torment. Aardvark was when I was crying about being homesick, when I was full of all that trauma, it was the place where I had no torment, and so I could write about it. I could write about it because, like Phil Chevron, I know that I can't write in the middle of torment. So I really love to thank Aardvark for everything, and for my growth as a musician, and for the growth of everyone in Crew 2, Tamika, our wordsmith, Reese, our shred king, Lachlan, I forgot your name, our bass wizard, Mr. Gandalf, our wonderful, wonderful CL with their knowledge of absolutely every obscure fact on the planet, and with that rhythmic guitar on, you know, almost everything. And am I forgetting anyone?
Yourself.
I've already said enough about me. And the wonderful Ellie and Tristan that made sure our songs didn't end up really shambolic. I'd love to thank them all. And anyway, enough of me talking. Let's get Overtime over to the stage.